watching Cheeto dust-covered belligerents exchanging lowest common denominator insults with those who dutifully continue to prop up and propagate the never-ending proliferation of increasingly banal and often downright cynical detritus that Hollywood continues to thread like a ringworm into the fabric of modern entertainment. And we really shouldn't be surprised that we've seen this play out over and over every time Hollywood continues to fail at innovating and opts instead to resurrect properties that should have never had their long-dead corpses exhumed from the graveyard of sensible entertainment. Really, this isn't all that different from Ghostbusters' Answer the Call. Sure, that film had a handful of truly venomous shitbags who utilized the controversy surrounding the film as a springboard to perpetuate hateful ideology. However, the vast majority of people plainly saw what was wrong and perhaps couldn't find the words for it, so they latched onto whatever was deemed as anathema to the film's perceived progressive subterfuge, and the result was a whole lot of SJWs equals bad. Now, I'm in no way suggesting that Hollywood hasn't increasingly wedged more progressive talking points into its movies and actresses and hashtagging the Me Too movement. But for posterity's sake, it is important to distinguish between the echoes of mob mentality bullhorns and actual constructive criticisms. That being said, let's show everyone on the Stay Puft Marshmallow Doll where the liberal ideology touched them. The issue with Ghostbusters wasn't that it had a primary cast consisting entirely of women. It was that it made an adaptation of the most libertarian film ever made without a single cohesive scene in the entire script and reduced the entire franchise to a series of queef jokes, all before driving it home by shooting the primary villain in the dick with neutrino wands. It was an off-brand Scooby-Doo film with a narrative that was anathema to the source material. That's why it failed, and that's why Paul Feig will likely never helm another major Sony franchise again. And now we see the same arguments resurfacing again, this time around Terminator Dark Fate. Everything from Feminator to T-1000, a mob of low-watt, high-chair gurglers have once again missed the mark on explaining what the real issues with the film are. Whether we're discussing Ghostbusters or Terminator Dark Fate, the relentless laser-like focus on the film's socio-political leanings are symptomatic of people who see a lot of problems with the film but aren't intelligent enough to articulate what those problems are. Instead, they resort to eye-rolling ad hominem attacks. It's no secret that Terminator Dark Fate isn't looking particularly good, but that has a lot less to do with the film's alleged predilection for progressive subterfuge than it does the laundry list of other issues. First off, the film has 6 writers. 6. David Goyer, who was responsible for the awesomeness that was Blade in The Dark Knight, as well as the what the fuckery that was Blade 2, Man of Steel, and Batman vs. Superman. Charles Egley, who worked on Dexter before it sputtered out. Joss Friedman, who worked on the Sarah Connor Chronicles and War of the Worlds. And Justin Rhodes, who has had a couple of writing credits on films not even worth mentioning, as well as Billy Ray, who was involved with Hearts War and State of Play, and of course Cameron himself, who had to use Vaseline and a crowbar to pry himself away from his unrequited obsession with making more Avatar films that no one really wants. The entire time, we've been led to believe that Cameron was heavily involved in a meaningful way, and yet Cameron never even visited the set. By Cameron's own admission, the script wasn't ready for shooting, to the extent that he was shipping out rewrites of scenes the day before they were shot. Cameron's involvement wasn't to reinvigorate the franchise. It was merely damage control after the giant pile of shit that was Genesis. Cameron said in an interview, "I focused on getting the script punched up. I didn't feel like we went into the shoot with the script exactly where it should have been. There was a lot of momentum on the project, there was a start date, there was a lot of energy and a lot of go fever, but the script wasn't where it needed to be, so I quietly worked on it in the background, shipping out pages. Sometimes I was shipping out pages the day before they shot a scene. I'm not sure that was always 100% helpful, but overall I kept the characters on track and sounding right and being where they needed to be. I am Jack's complete lack of surprise." Watching the trailers, it's readily apparent that the original cast's characterization is completely desynchronous with the original portrayals. Hamilton's line delivery is just flat out cringe-inducing for reasons that are far beyond whatever chain smoking has done to her voice.
Talk fast.
Her narration and voice work was abysmally flat. Her characterization feels completely divorced from the first 2 films. Hamilton's a talented actress. Let's do an exercise. Let's compare these 2 scenes.
Wait here.
Hurry up! Hurry up! Kill us all! They'll kill us all!
Notate the absolute horror. This woman, as we've seen her in other scenes, is ironclad. She's rugged. She's a diamond that's been pressurized by the mind-boggling events she's endured. She doesn't shy away from a fight, and yet here she is absolutely fucking terrified beyond all capacity. Even when you watch the later scenes where she shoots the T-1000 at the steel mill and the T-1000's subsequent attempt to force her to act as bait for John, she's anguished, determined and impudent, but never does she display any whimsical reactions that come anywhere close to approximating meh. Now let's take a look at the end of the second Dark Fate trailer.
I'll be back.
Meh, I'll be back. Gonna go grab some airplane shots. You guys want anything? The delivery is completely uninspired, and if I'm being honest, we're about 20 years beyond the point when Hamilton could have really mustered up a great performance, let alone Hollywood producing a high-budget action flick that had an ounce of fucking nuance. And then there's the score. While we haven't heard it, it has the unenviable task of sounding remotely as good as Fidel's work. But meanwhile, they are pursuing Guns N' Roses to provide something, anything that approximates nostalgia. Why? If you hear the words Terminator and music in the same sentence, Guns N' Roses sure as shit is not the first association you should be making. And whose fucking idea was it to have Hamilton utter, "I'll be back"? As people watched that moment around the world, sweaty palms could be heard by the thousands colliding into foreheads. The effects work and stylization appears to be a clear case of style over substance. Just compare the leapfrogging and grossly, unnecessarily exaggerated movements we see from Grace in the trailers and juxtapose that to the direct, efficient, and far more grounded movements and stylization seen in the first two films. This is the wrath of 11 years of Marvel's cinematic universe. Style over substance, form supersedes function. And yet, in spite of all that, everyone 100% expects this to be better than the last three attempts. That's not at all the point here, as that is a completely irrelevant measuring stick considering just how awful the last three films were. It needs to springboard right the fuck over them, and that would take a very specific formula to even have a shot. Furlong, Hamilton, with Cameron writing and directing, and Brad Fiedel composing. And even then, the chance that it would be successful on a level even close to the second film is marginal. Which brings me to my last point. A lot of the vitriol is coming from those who have read the leaks, and it is well known now, albeit not 100% confirmed, that John Connor is murdered by the new T-800 in the opening minutes of the film, enlarged to clear room for the new savior of people kind, who, by the way, we've seen very little or heard very little from any of the promotional materials released to us thus far. So to recap, while the film would certainly be hard-pressed to perform as poorly as the last three cinematic entries into the Terminator universe, everything that promotional and marketing materials has given us glimpses of paints yet another picture of a pointless excursion made in the pursuit of the almighty dollar, regardless of if it is yet again beating the same damn horse fruitlessly in such an endeavor. This is Dapperstache, and thanks for watching for the sake of posterity.